Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Susan's Just Making It. I'm Susan and I'm here making stuff, messes, chaos, and just trying to make it through life. If you've been here before, welcome back. If this is your first time here, welcome to my channel. If you like today's video, don't forget the thumbs up. It's right down here. It only takes a second to hit the button and it really helps my channel. And while you're at it, if you haven't subscribed yet, I would really love it if you'd consider doing so by hitting that red subscribe button and the notification bell so you'll know every time I upload a new video. So happy Mask Monday, everyone. Hope your week is off to a wonderful start. Today I am going to be doing a mask and I'm going to be talking about things that you will probably only be able to relate to if you're a Gen Xer or a child/teen of the 80s. So for today's Mask Monday, I am going to use this mask from Yada. I think that's how it's pronounced. It's a daily green mask with Sika, and this is a vegan mask, which means none of the ingredients are derived from animals in any way, shape, or form. And it also has a disclaimer here that it's skin irritation tested. It has been tested to make sure that there are no issues with sensitivity or allergies or anything like that. It has a whole thing on the back with like all the skin sensitivity testing that has been done, and apparently the ingredients in it were used to heal tiger wounds. I thought that was kind of interesting and different. And it's also supposed to be a bamboo mask, and it's a soothing one. It's supposed to be good for soothing and to protect your skin from environmental pollutants and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and put the mask on, and then I'm going to get into my little 80s type stuff for today. And the cat just jumped up here, so if stuff starts shaking, it's because of her. So yeah, something had me, I don't know, I was thinking something about the 80s. I had gotten into a conversation or something just sparked the thought in my mind. And I'm like, oh, that would be a cool thing to do for Mask Monday. I think a lot of people that watch my Mask Mondays would be able to relate to some of the things that I came up with. So I'm just going to try to get this mask on. It has a lot of serum in it. The packaging did say it was loaded with the essence. So just see if I can get that on. I know where that nose flap is, and then I will get into that. And I'm noticing already that it seems a little bit more substantial, like sturdier, and I think that's because it's made with bamboo. Some of the more papery ones are really delicate, and this seems very like sturdy. It doesn't seem like, some of them are so thin I'm afraid to put them on because I think they're going to rip. This one doesn't feel like that. It feels pretty sturdy and substantial. And as you can see, it is loaded with serum. It's very, very wet. Let's get it smoothed out a little bit. And this is a 10 to 15 minute mask, I read. I came in with I had just cleaned and toned my face before I came in to put the mask on. So, and this one does not need to be rinsed off. So I think that's pretty good. And I remembered a towel this time. So, like I said, I just thought this would be a fun little something for Mask Monday. I noticed that most of my viewers are right around my age, so I'm sure a lot of you will relate to this stuff. So I wrote everything down, so I'm gonna have to refer to my notebook. You might be a Gen Xer or a child/teen of the 80s if you remember the phrase, "Where's the beef?" And if you go around, when we were kids, you went around saying that, everybody knew what it meant. I think if you went around now saying that, people would look like you've lost your whole mind. Where's the beef? That was the thing back then. You guys know it. Another thing, if you owned or played with Garbage Pail stickers or cards, a Rubik's Cube. Let's see what else I have written down. A Light Bright. Fashion plates, which I kind of forgot about those until I happened to like see that when I was looking up some of the toys from back then. A spirograph, that's another one I kind of forgot about. A Slinky, a Viewmaster, or a Snoopy snow cone maker. I don't remember having the snow cone maker. My sister claims that we did have one, but I don't remember it. But I do remember all of the other things, especially the Rubik's Cube. And tell me if you were one of these that trying to figure out the Rubik's Cube, and after a while, when you couldn't figure it out, you took the stickers off and put them where they were supposed to be. I didn't do that, but I know a lot of people did. I just kind of was like, I'm not doing this. I can't figure it out. I'm not doing it. Another one. If Alf, Dukes of Hazzard, Punky Brewster, The Cosby Show, and The Muppet Show were some of your favorite TV shows. And back then, we did not have DVD and VCRs and different things to record on, so you had to make sure you remembered what day they came on so you could remember to sit down in front of the TV and watch them. You knew what night what shows were on, and you made sure you were done with what you had to do for the day so you could watch your show for the day. Let's see. Okay, if you wore anything neon, acid washed peg jeans, Vans. My youngest son, he is always buying different Vans. I'm like, that is nothing new. We wore those too. Slap bracelets, which started off as fashion and kind of turned into being banned because they turned into weapons instead of fashion. Let's see. Leg warmers, Jordache or Gloria Vanderbilt jeans. My parents were like, we're not spending extra money for that. You know, they were not about all this name brand and stuff costing more. So yeah, that was a very rare thing for us. Jelly shoes. We had jelly shoes every color. And banana clips. I didn't so much because my hair is a little bit finer, but my sister has thicker hair, and I remember her wearing the banana clips quite a bit. Let's see. If you listen to Madonna, Cyndi Lauper, Duran Duran, Michael Jackson, Debbie Gibson, and the Culture Club, and Wham! If that's the music you listen to, you might be a child or a teen of the 80s. That's culture shock for not so much my older son. My older son, he enjoys music from like all different eras, and sometimes he surprises me with music I catch him listening to or talking about, and I'm like, okay. But my younger son, one time I was on YouTube looking up a lot of videos from music back in the 80s, and it was a whole culture shock thing. He didn't know what to think of it. He's like, you guys listen to that, and what's with these people and their clothes and stuff? It was like a whole culture thing with him, but it was funny watching him watch them and his facial expressions. That was a whole thing. There will never be anything like the 80s music ever again. Just my opinion. If you remember when MTV actually had music videos, I tell my kids that all the time. I said, MTV used to actually play music videos instead of all these other shows. It's music television. And I said, as a matter of fact, I remember when MTV first came out. You know, we'd rush home from school and MTV would be on until my parents came home from work and wanted to watch, you know, their shows for the day. But MTV actually used to play music videos. If your favorite movies were E.T. or The Gremlins or Ghostbusters, yep. If you remember when Troll and Scholastic book order forms came out at school, that used to be so exciting. I remember when they would come out at school and I would start looking to see what books I wanted, and I'd put my little X mark or whatever on them, and then I would wait to see how much money my mom or dad would give me, and then I could go back and see what books I could order. Oh, I used to love when that came out. And then it took forever for the books to come after the teacher signed in the order. I forgot all about that until I was looking up some of this 80s stuff. I'm like, oh, I forgot all about that. I used to love those book orders. You might be a Gen Xer or a child of the 80s if you ever used a card catalog. We did not have Google back then. Card catalogs. I try to explain it to my kids now, and they're just like totally dumbfounded. They're like, what do you mean you didn't have Google? I'm older than Google. We did not have Google. We had to look stuff up on little cards in these little drawers and hope that we can make sense of it and find the book we were actually looking for, the resources. Yeah, they struggle. They'll never understand, you know. If you collected scratch and sniff stickers, Mrs. and I were talking about that too. That was a big thing back then. And did they really actually ever smell like what they were supposed to? Not really. Trapper keepers. If you couldn't wait until the school year started so you could get your new trapper keeper for the year, I remember that every year that was the big thing. And the first day of school, everyone had perfect, shiny trapper keepers. By the end of the school year, the poor things were so mangled, and the folders wouldn't stay in the little binder clips anymore, and they started out yay thick, you know, with your like 3 little folders in there, and by the end of the year they were like this thick, and everything was falling all over the place, and they were marked up, and they looked like they had been through a war. Trapper keepers. If you remember the Care Bears, Rainbow Bright, not the new Rainbow Bright, Smurfs. That was a big thing. I remember the little figures we used to get and watching Smurfs Saturday morning. Strawberry shortcake, the original strawberry shortcake, not the new one they have, with the blonde hair, the one with the short curly red hair. It looked like Annie. My Little Pony, which I know is still around, but I was noticing when I was looking up some of the stuff that it originally came out, and I think it was 1983 or 1984. I know Little Pony has pretty much survived and is still floating around, but that was ours back in the 80s. And Cabbage Patch Kids. I remember when Cabbage Patch Kids first came out. They were like a huge craze back in the 80s, but I remember them before they were a craze. One day my sister and I came home from school, and my mom had been out shopping, and she had bought each of us a Cabbage Patch Kid. This is when they were first going on the shelves before they became a hit, and we didn't think anything of it. It was just like a new toy that my mother found and brought home for us. But then shortly after that, within a few months, it was like everyone had to have one. Everyone was running to the store to get them. And to us, it was like, well, what's the big deal? We've had ours for a few months already, and it's just a doll. But yeah, I think we got some of the very first ones that came out. And in hindsight, we beat the stupid doll to death and played with it and abused it. And I'm thinking, geez, if we would have just left it in the box, there was a time that we could have gotten a lot of money for that. But it was just a toy to us. And then when the Cabbage Patch craze came out, we really couldn't wrap our head around it, because it's like just a doll. But okay, let's see. If you spent every weekend at the roller skating rink, used to die for the weekends to get there so we could go roller skating on either Friday or Saturday night. If we were given any kind of allowance, or we did something to earn a few dollars, that's what I put my money up for, so I could, you know, get in, get my skate rental, and have money for like a drink or a slice of pizza. Every weekend, if something came up and it was a weekend we couldn't go for whatever reason, like one of the parents couldn't take the group of kids, or I didn't have the money, or there was a family obligation, it was a sad week. I love going roller skating. I think, you know, kids should do stuff like that more now, but it just doesn't seem to be a thing like it was back then. Okay, if your makeup / beauty routine consisted of Aquanet hairspray, remember the hair of the 80s, lots of Aquanet, blue eyeshadow. Now when I was looking up, they said blue, pink, and purples. Blue to me is what stands out when I think of the 80s. Blue eyeshadow. Everyone wore blue eyeshadow. And a lot of people, I don't know if it was just where I grew up, it was a fad, or if it was nationwide, but also the blue mascara. Guilty of that too. Had the black and brown mascara was not where it was at. It was the blue mascara. And now I hate blue eyeshadow, but that's just me. Also, Love's Baby Soft. My sister's like, I used to love that. And I'm like, is it still around? She goes, I think it is. Everybody wore Love's Baby Soft. That was the thing. Lip smackers. Now I know lip smackers are still around in like the lip balm tubes, but remember when they were in the little tins? That's the lip smackers I'm talking about. Noxzema. Everybody had Noxzema as part of their skincare, whether it was to remove makeup or just wash your face, or when you got a sunburn, everybody threw the Noxzema on the sunburns. Noxzema. And another one, Malibu Musk. And I kind of forgot about this for a while until I was looking at some of this nostalgia things. And my sister's like, yeah, that's what the stuff you used to wear. You used to make me sneeze and everything. But I was more the Malibu Musk than the Love's Baby Soft. But I remember it in the turquoise, tin sprays. And there were some more, but my sister's like, well, what about this? What about that? I'm like, those weren't as popular. Okay. I'm going to leave this on for just a couple more minutes and then take it off because it's starting to dry in some of these spots. Okay, if you ate or drank these things, Hi-C Ecto Cooler, the green, the neon green Hi-C, I remember that. Forgot about that until I was looking at stuff. But oh yes, I remember drinking that. The original Wacky Wafers, I think I see them once in a while that they've pretty much survived, but I remember when they first came out, we used to buy them a lot. BB Bats, I really liked those. Of course, they were so hard you'd break your teeth if you tried to just bite into them. But actually, I worked at a department store, a discount department store right out of high school, so it was 1990-ish, and that was the only place I saw those after. Since I was a young kid. That's the only place I've ever seen them since childhood. I know there's a few candy stores online and a few here and there that you can find them, but it's very rare that you find them. The bubblegum ice cream. I remember when we were kids and our grandmother took us. I just need to silence this. I forgot to silence my phone. I want somebody to call. Took us to get ice cream once, and we saw it at the ice cream shop and got it. And because it was a fun, different idea, and it was pink ice cream, and it had the bubblegum balls in it. Yeah, kids will never understand these days. Whatever you do, do not bite into a bubblegum ball right out of the ice cream, because you will not have any teeth left. And there's another I didn't write this down, but thinking about the bubblegum ice cream, it just came to mind. We were kids when gummy worms first came out too, and that was the big thing. Every time our parents or our grandmother would go to the store and ask us what kind of candy we wanted, we had to have gummy worms. Now I think about it and I'm like, why did we like those? Some people love gummy bears, gummy worms, gummy lifesavers, whatever. I don't, because I feel like you just chew and chew and chew, and you just chew some more. And I'm like, why did we do that? I'm like, for that, I always have people laughing because I'm like, it's like chewing on a tire or something. All you do is chew. Also, now and later candies. And my sister and I were talking about that because the other day I was talking about, I had written this stuff down, and I'm like, we're talking about it, and I'm like, oh, I forgot to write down now and laters. I don't know why, because when we would walk home from school, there was this little gas station convenience store that had the candy that's you could actually get for 5 or 10 cents back then. And we always used to get now and laters because it had all the flavors, and I think there would be 4 that would come in a little pack for 15 cents or something like that. And my sister goes, yeah, remember you could never get the paper completely off, so after trying to get the paper off, you just ate it with the paper and said, oh, it's only just a little bit of paper. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, I remember that. You could just never get that last little piece of paper off when you were taking the wrappers off. But that was the big thing with us, was the now and laters. I know they still are around, but I remember that from our childhood. Jiffy Pop popcorn. And before I even started looking at this stuff, my sister and I were talking about it one day, about now you just put your bag in the microwave and in a couple minutes you have your popcorn. And remember when we bought the tins and you had to do it over the stove and keep it moving, and then it puffed up with the big foil and stuff? So the kids these days don't know what they're missing. Yeah, you burnt half of it and you had to keep it moving, and it took more than 4 or 5 minutes, but it was a whole, like on movie night, that's what you did. And kids these days just don't understand. Bubble Yum bubble gum. Remember that because my mother used to hate when we got it. Now when I think of like that bubble gum, it's like it just nauseates me because I chew like sugarless gum, and I of course go for like more mint flavors and stuff. But back then the thought, if I tried to chew a piece of that now, I would probably gag because it was so sickening sweet. I think they put like a whole 5-pound bag of sugar in like one piece of gum. But my mom used to hate it because for a while there, I'm gonna go ahead and take this off because it's getting really dry. My mom used to hate it because for a while there, my sister and I would always get the grape, and that's another thing that now the thought of it makes me gag. The grape flavored bubble gum, I would never be able. If I had to chew a piece now, I think I would die. But my mom used to hate it because she'd be sitting at the kitchen table having her coffee or something, and my sister and I would be sitting there chewing the gum. She's like, "You need to go somewhere with that gum. I can't stand the smell of it." And that's when we were talking about this. My sister was saying, "You remember how much Mom hated that? And she'd make us leave and stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, I remember. She'd make us go outside because she couldn't stand the smell of our gum." But then Brock's Pick-a-Mix. I heard this brought up not that long ago. I can't remember who was talking about it. When you used to be able to go in the store and you'd get your bag and you would fill it with a variety of candy, and then you paid per pound. And they had like the Neapolitan coconut candies, and then they had the white with the gel in it, and then like the caramels, and then the hard candies. Oh my gosh. I remember when I was in high school, I worked at a grocery store, and we had the Brock's Pick-a-Mix there, and that's the last I've seen of it, and we're talking like just over 30 years ago. I don't think I've seen anything like that in probably that long, but I definitely remember that. 5 Alive. My sister was like, "What was that?" I said, "You don't remember? It came in like the frozen juice, and it was blue, and the 5 Alive was like different colors, and it was a concentrate, and then after a while they had it in a half gallon." She's like, "No, I don't remember that." I'm like, "I remember it." Fun Dip. I know you see that here and there, but when we were kids, that was the thing when Fun Dip came out. Jello pudding pops. Not so popular now because of the spokesperson, but I remember when that was a new item and all the commercials was about the Jello pudding pops. Tab soda. These days people will be like, people actually drank that with the saccharin and stuff. I remember I have an aunt, had an aunt that's what she drank. And when we were kids, it wasn't that we weren't allowed to have soda, it was just once in a while type of treat. And we would be offered a tab soda. I'm like, "No, can I just have KoolAid or tea or something?" That stuff was awful. Pop Rocks. That was a thing that came out when we were kids. Yeah, they were a lot of fun. Do you remember Nestle Quick when it came in the tins? Not the little plastic, tin thingies they have now, but the actual tin where you had to find a spoon and, flip the lid off. Kids will never know. KoolAid. There's so many drink mixes now, and a lot of, even when my kids were growing up, I tried to go for more like the sugar-free options and stuff. When we were a kid, it was KoolAid. Running in and out, my parents didn't buy us like all this juice and different stuff, and there wasn't the juice boxes and the juice pouches. It was KoolAid, where you put that whole cup of sugar in there, and thinking back on it now, it's like I can't believe we drank that. It was god awful. It was just gross. But it was KoolAid. And I remember my mom always telling us, don't be making a whole bunch of KoolAid and using up all the sugar, so I don't have sugar for my coffee and stuff like that. But yeah, it's like, I think back, I'm like, how did we drink as much KoolAid as we did? This stuff was terrible. It's just like water with dye that you pour a ton of sugar in. But that's what we lived on, this stuff in the summer. I mean, that's all we drank. And Smurfberry Crunch cereal. A lot of cereals from back then, but I'll always remember Smurfberry Crunch because that was like the Captain Crunch of back then, which I think Captain Crunch was around, but the Smurfberry Crunch was so much better. Okay, so if you remember when these things first came out, VCRs. I remember when VCRs first came out, and my parents got one. We were not wealthy by any means. We were pretty much just maybe low middle class to middle class. We weren't poor, but we weren't really well off either. I remember when VCRs first came out, my parents bought one. We were one of the first. We lived in an apartment complex. At the time, we lived in Houston, Texas, and we lived in an apartment complex. And we were one of the first families that had a VCR. My sister and I weren't really that impressed, but it was like, I remember when they first came out. Microwaves. We were one of the first families that had that too. And that's when the microwaves were like this big. Not like today where they're modest size. They were huge. And I remember we got a microwave, and they were new. Like now it's commonplace, not to put metal in there. And, it's just second nature to use them. But back then it wasn't. And I remember when we first got it, my mother went to warm up some garlic bread in it, and it was in the foil bag, and she put it in there. We hear this big pop pop. We're like, take the bag out. But yeah, we remember when they first came out, and they were huge. The VCRs, for that matter, were huge too. Cable TV. I remember when cable TV first came out. That's when you could actually get TV for free, when you had your however many channels, and you could turn the dial, or when TVs were first starting to have remotes back then. But you had your basic stations, and you could watch your regular shows and stuff, the soap operas during the day and the shows at night and the cartoons. And then when cable came out, that was just the icing on the cake. Now you pretty much have to have cable or dish. But yeah, I remember when cable first came out, it was a big thing. And MTV was one of the first channels too, by the way. And that was next thing on my list, MTV. I remember when MTV first came out. That was like I said, the big thing when we were 10, 12, 14, 15 years old, to rush home so we could watch MTV before the parents took over the TV. And Walkmans. That was a big thing when Walkmans came out. Instead of the big boom boxes, we actually had where we could put the the little headphone things on and play our cassette tapes. And kids these days will never know the struggle of cassette tapes either, because when the tape started coming out and you tried to wind it back in and hoping that it didn't get tangled up or break, because then you would cry because it would be your favorite tape. And also when we wanted to make our own mixtapes and waiting for the song to come on the radio and hit record real quick so we could record our own. Kids these days will never know the struggle. We did not have the MP3 players and all the digital music. And even CDs were better. And then when we learned how to burn CDs, but there's nothing like the cassette tapes. And like digital music, the quality is always there. The cassette tape, after you've played it 500 times, the quality is just not there anymore. But we were so happy to go, and when we had a few dollars to buy a cassette tape, their favorite bands and stuff like that. The kids will never know the struggles, I'm telling you. And that's all I had written down. But I think about it now, and I think about how easy kids have it with the internet, Google, digital music, cell phones, all this stuff we didn't have back then. But when you think about it, we didn't have those things, but we were still happy kids. And the kids on the tablets and the phones right now and video games. Back then we had a thing called outside. Like my parents, they weren't mean, but it was, I think a lot of you will probably be able to relate. When we were kids back then, in the summertime when there was no school, we got up, we got our, brushed our teeth, washed our face, whatever, got our bowl of cereal, whatever, and then we were told go outside. And it wasn't this running in and out, because my parents were like, stop running in and out the air conditioner or whatever. And we didn't want to be in besides to get a drink, or lunchtime to get a sandwich anyway. We didn't want to be inside. And my parents didn't see us all day. And it's not like these days when every time your kid walks out the door, you're worrying yourself sick. Back then we could be trusted. We got into mischief, but nothing major. We'd come in dirty, and I remember, like I said, we lived in Houston, and there was an apartment complex with a swimming pool, and I think like 10 o'clock in the morning they would open the gates, and then they would close them like right around the time it got dark. My mother didn't see me all day. I was at the swimming pool. I came in once in a while to get a drink, to get a sandwich around lunchtime, and that's it. My mom would come down to the pool. Dinner's ready. If we wanted to eat dinner, we came to eat dinner. If we didn't, dinner was not waiting. Dinner was put away. We would eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and go to bed. But that's what I did. I didn't want to be in. Like these days too, I'm always complaining about small children being in adult conversations. When company came over, we did not care about adult conversation. It was boring to us. We wanted nothing to do with it. Bye, see you, we're going back outside. And like a lot of the channels I follow, and the common subscribers were talking about skincare and makeup. And I've mentioned before about back then we weren't as knowledgeable about sun protection and stuff like that like we are now, and some of us are paying a big price for that. But when we were kids, my parents weren't chasing us around throwing sunscreen and stuff on us. We were in and out and in and out, and my skin was like so brown all summer and didn't think much of it. And I do see signs of skin damage from being out in the sun, but I wouldn't trade my childhood back in the, I was born in 71, so late 70s through the 80s, my childhood that I was doing childhood things, I wouldn't trade it for a childhood today for anything. It was so much fun. And living in Houston, we used to go to the beach, Galveston Beach, once or twice a month during the summer at least. And we would live for the weekends, and we were going to Galveston, going to the beach, and I loved swimming, and we would go fishing and different things like that. And it's like, I feel like I wouldn't trade my childhood then for a childhood now. I had a lot of fun. My parents tried to let us experience things. Like they took us to Louisiana. We went to tour different places. We've toured Anheuser-Busch and the Tabasco sauce factory, and we went to like a diamond mine where we would dig, and the chances of finding a diamond were slim, but different gems and stuff like that. And we used to like once or twice during the summer take road trips and do different things. And sometimes when I was a teenager, I thought, oh my gosh, I had the worst childhood ever. But looking back on it, I had a really good childhood. And it's my opinion. Whether or not you guys agree, I don't know. But I feel like growing up as a Gen Xer / child of the 80s was one of the best times to be a kid. Just my opinion. You guys can let me know whether you agree or not down below. But it was funny. Like I said, I don't know what got me on the thought pattern of things like when we were younger, but then I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna look at some of this stuff and write it down and do a Mask Monday, because I think it's just really awesome. It had me feeling nostalgic, and some things I had forgotten about, and I'm like, oh yeah, now I remember that. So if you have anything to add, like if I left anything out, write down here in the description box. If there's something you guys remember that was a big thing back then but I didn't remember, or if you agree with me about being a child during that time. And I hope you enjoyed some of the throwback stuff. And as always, let me know what you think down below, and don't forget that thumbs up. I appreciate it very much. It helps my channel immensely, and I appreciate all of you. So until the next video, bye everyone.